Luigi's Mansion was released in 2001 alongside the Nintendo Gamecube to a positive reception, but not quite the same level of acclaim that had greeted Super Mario 64 and its parent console 5 years earlier. Luigi's Mansion didn't just ignore the blueprint of Mario 64, it was a complete departure from what fans had come to expect from a mainline launch title, even excluding Mario as a playable character. It was also quite short. Mario 64 was an expansive game with secrets to be found, worlds to explore, and it offered an experience that seemed to last for days and weeks, long after players first entered Peach's castle. This was not, as some people felt at the time, what Luigi's Mansion offered. Even if it wasn't a Super Mario game, it was a first-party launch title set in the same universe, and it was different. In the nearly 25 years since its release though, these memories have almost disappeared and the narrative has quietly been rewritten. Particularly in an age of endless sequels and remakes, I can see how one might become nostalgic for a title that subverted the expectations of its audience at the time. Although there was some criticism from fans in 2001, time can so easily dilute the problems that once seemed so pressing. I'm sure there are many fans who now look back on their experience of playing this game at launch with fondness. Not me though, I hadn't actually been born yet, so I never played it. But I wanted to. When I started learning about Nintendo's history, this game stuck out like a sore thumb, often for the reasons that had initially proven so divisive. A creepy horror game set in the Mario universe where the player navigates a spooky house to catch a family of ghosts. It wasn't just the premise that attracted me, it was the question of its potential limitations. How would the game work? Do you just go for a high score? Are there levels to speak of? Here was a spin-off concept being given the AAA treatment, promoted as a launch title no less. That was exciting, particularly given the GameCube's reputation for providing quirky, offbeat interpretations of many of Nintendo's biggest franchises. So after finally getting a copy, I dove in, excited to explore a game I had only ever experienced through references and Easter eggs. I was determined to play it without the weight of any expectations, simply on its own merits, and to find out whether, when it came to Luigi's Mansion, I'd been living under a rock. It's something that Nintendo are often very good at, establishing a simple gameplay mechanic early on and then providing a setting for the player to improve and develop this skill throughout the course of the game. Think Flood in Super Mario Sunshine. The gimmick here is the Poltergust 3000, and the skill is collecting ghosts as efficiently as possible. Mechanically, I have very few complaints. The dual analog sticks feel incredibly natural, and although it takes a little while to learn the best way to maneuver around a difficult ghost, the actual control scheme is intuitive right from the start. Each individual ghost is another mini challenge, making each encounter feel immediate in its importance. Each ghost is a new chance to improve. The feeling of successfully pulling off a ghost capture in one go is simple, but incredibly satisfying. There's a real push and pull as you tussle with a difficult ghost, and it makes these encounters feel lively and unique, like a real dance macabre, literally in some cases. This mechanic really is the keystone that holds the entire experience together. When the simple act of catching ghosts is inherently fun, then everything else will fall into place around it. The setting, the visuals, the music are all fantastic, but they would be worthless without such a strong central mechanic. And the mechanic itself is indeed strong. I just wish the fights in which you used it offered a little more in the way of puzzle solving. I think the ghost that really highlighted this issue was Slim Bankshot, the snooker player. When he hits a shot and the balls go flying, I was initially quite impressed. I thought that I needed to pick up the balls and shoot them into the pockets, finishing his game for him, at which point he would become stunned and I could capture him. This was not the case. The fight instead boiled down to simply having to fire projectiles at him to stun him, the same as several of the other ghost encounters. I know it's not the game's fault that it wasn't what I imagined in my head, that's bound to happen every now and then, but the fight did make me realise how similar many of the interactions were. Given the relatively small number of ghosts in the game, it's a shame that they couldn't have been made more unique. That's not to say that there weren't any interesting fights though. The fight with the Clockwork Soldiers was really fun, and particularly challenging, as was the need to fill the shower with ice in order to startle Miss Petunia and capture her. It's also worth reiterating that the very act of capturing ghosts is enjoyable in itself, which can help remedy some of the similarities apparent in these interactions. Even if the puzzle for a particular ghost isn't very exciting, the subsequent fight will be worthwhile and will always provide the opportunity to exhibit a perfect capture. Compared to the expansive settings of previous Mario titles, residing solely in the mansion provides the opportunity to cultivate a consistent tone over the course of an entire game. In Mario 64, however much you enjoyed the calm atmosphere of Jolly Roger Bay, it was never long before you returned to Peach's castle or visited a separate and wildly different location. Both approaches have their merits, of course, and the appeal of a game like Mario 64 is the variety it offers, but the opening up of the house itself, becoming familiar with its geography and exploring its various nooks and crannies is one of the most rewarding aspects of playing Luigi's Mansion. On top of the already addictive mechanic of collecting ghosts, you have the process of discovering new rooms in which you find more ghosts which open more rooms and so on. This feature would be compelling enough, but the look and feel of the mansion provides even more of an incentive to explore. It's an impressive achievement managing to create a grounded setting that simultaneously houses the exaggerated characters of the Mario universe. Somehow Luigi or Professor Egad don't feel out of place in this Edwardian style mansion. It's full of similarly outlandish ghosts and boos, of course, but it also has the carpet or wallpaper or furniture of a more realistic location. The two complement each other rather than clash, and it makes for one of the most immersive locations in any Mario game. It's even a little bit creepy. Okay, look, this isn't a scary game. I wasn't scared whilst playing it, I promise, alright? I wasn't even that scared, just leave it, okay? It does, however, cultivate a respectably eerie atmosphere, thanks in part to the use of light and shadow when exploring new areas. You're forced to rely almost solely on torchlight to find your way through the mansion at first, with the harsh glare creating long shadows down longer corridors. Again, I think the look of this old, threadbare house helps to sustain this attempt at a gothic setting. It feels about as scary as the old Universal Dracula, that is to say heavy on atmosphere even if it lacks any genuine horror. I wasn't expecting to be scared, of course, it's still a Mario game, but I was charmed by its attempts to maintain a spooky visual style, and the mansion really is the main beneficiary of these creative decisions. Charm is the key word here. This game is full of it, especially in its characters and story. As mentioned, it's built on a durable gameplay mechanic, but it's the smaller details that make this world so inviting to return to. I love how Luigi will hum to himself in the dark and his voice will tremble, but when you light the hall up, he'll whistle instead. I love the idea of a Game Boy horror, complete with an accurate logo. I also love the different names of the boos that inhabit the mansion. Bamboo, Game Boo Advance, Mr. Boojangles, and Tambourine were just some of my favourites. There's even a ghost called Boolean, true or false? I just think the game serves as a perfect environment for a character like Luigi to function in. He's a likeable underdog and someone who doesn't hide their fear of a situation. It's this noticeable fear that makes his mastery of the mansion so rewarding. Sure, in the grand scheme of character development, it's not much, but it's refreshing to see just a hint of growth for a protagonist within this franchise. Beating the final boss is something that you couldn't imagine Luigi doing at the start of the game. He's scared of the mansion at the start and scared of any new floor or room that he hasn't cleared yet. Seeing this character end up defeating King Boo and saving his brother represents a triumph over this fear of his, and even as small an amount of context as this works wonders in creating a more engaging story for a game in this franchise. Yeah, it's not The Last of Us or Red Dead Redemption, but it is more development than Mario is afforded in his mainline titles. It all culminates in that final Bowser fight, an encounter that really demonstrates the impressive visuals of the Gamecube when compared to its predecessor. It took me about 7 attempts to get through it. Bit embarrassing, it's a kid's game, but anyway, I made it in the end. I was able to cash in the numerous ghosts that I had caught, make some more money, and then I was shown the rank that I had earned for my hours of hard work, and I'll be honest, I was feeling pretty confident. I knew that this game had a rank system, but I genuinely thought that I was cleaning up as I went through and had just assumed that I'd be able to get that A rank on my first try. I mean, like I said, it's practically a kid's game, isn't it? Isn't it? Well, obviously not, and this cocky attitude did not help me when I got my rank. I actually couldn't believe it. An E. E. Are you I was shocked at just how low my rank was, but more than anything else, it made me want to jump back in and play it again. What did I miss? What didn't I do? What could I have done better? It's a brilliant way to encourage multiple playthroughs of a game because it appeals to the most basic instinct of any player, namely the desire to fully optimize their playthrough. I don't think this would be as appealing if the fundamental mechanics of the game weren't so solid, but given how durable they are, it's a challenge worth taking on. Just as each individual encounter is a chance to improve on the one before, so too is each playthrough, and it goes a long way to overcome the short length of the main game, in my opinion at least. Luigi's Mansion looks and feels fantastic, even today. As revolutionary as Mario 64 was, it shows its age far more blatantly. When analysing its gameplay and mechanical innovations, Luigi's Mansion is definitely built in the same vein as Mario 64. It still uses one analog stick to control movement in a 3D environment, for example. But it's in the details that you really see the advances this game makes. It looks beautiful, and with the final reveal of Bowser offering what I would consider to be his best and most intimidating look, perhaps in any Mario game, his size and scale can now be fully realised. I also love the translucent effect on all the ghosts and their neon colours that contrast perfectly with the mansion itself. The oranges, blues and purples of these ghosts create an environment that manages to be vibrant and yet still eerie. More than any of its individual qualities though, I just admire the left turn that Nintendo took when releasing this game as a launch title for the Gamecube. But the N64 before it had launched with Super Mario 64 and, well, we all know how influential that game was. But instead of providing a sequel, which I'm sure is what many people would have expected, they decided to go with a small-scale adventure, gently refining what had come before and with an increased focus on the setting and atmosphere. It's short, but also very replayable. I can see myself breaking it out every few years or so, maybe seeing how quickly I can clear the mansion or, whether I can actually get a decent rank. In an era of bloated AAA releases or open world elements that feel shoehorned in to extend runtimes, I think there's something to be said for a game that knows its own limits. Even if it didn't expand on its mechanics quite as much as I would have liked, it still offered a fun experience with an equally fun and inviting world, and honestly, I don't know what more you could ask for. I hope you enjoyed this second installment in what I hope will be a recurring series on this channel. This video has been in the works for a long time, not because it was overly difficult to make or anything, but because trying to make these videos alongside studying at uni is a bit of a challenge. I'm afraid for the time being the output on this channel will be a bit more sporadic, but I do have future videos planned and hopefully soon I'll have more time to make these more consistently, which would be great. I love making them and I've been very flattered by the responses to them, especially the Arkham Asylum retrospective from last year, which there will be a sequel to at some point. Anyway, that's enough from me. Feel free to like and comment or do whatever, and you can watch the first game I covered in this video series here if you are so inclined, but whatever you choose to do, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.